June 23, 1942. Southern Front, near Voronezh, 600 meters above the steppe. The morning air is already thick with dust and heat, the kind that crawls into lungs and engines alike. Below, the Russian steppe stretches flat and unforgiving. Brown fields scarred by tank tracks, shell craters still smoking from dawn artillery. The horizon trembles in the heat shimmer. Somewhere far behind the front line, guns are still firing. But up here, the sky seems deceptively calm. A pair of Messerschmitt B109 F4s slice eastward, their Daimler-Benz engines humming clean and confident. The canopies are slid back slightly for airflow. Lieutenant Karl-Heinz Reuter, 24 years old, born in Bremen, veteran of France and the opening months of Barbarossa, scans the ground with bored precision. He grins inside his oxygen mask. "Sturmoviks," he says over the radio, voice light, almost amused. "Low and slow, easy work." Below them, moving like dark beetles against the earth, fly 6 Il-2 Sturmoviks, single-engine Soviet attack aircraft, wings heavy with rockets and bombs, noses pointed relentlessly toward German armor massing near the river bend. They are flying barely above treetop height, no more than 350 kilometers per hour, straight and level. No evasive weaving, no fighter cover in sight. To Reuter, it looks like slaughter waiting to happen. Among German pilots, the Il-2 already has a nickname: Betonflugzeug, the concrete airplane. The name is spoken with laughter, not respect. Concrete doesn't fly. Concrete shatters when hit. Reuter rolls his Messerschmitt onto its back and dives. The wind screams as speed builds past 550 kilometers per hour. He lines up the trailing Sturmovik in his Revy gun sight, thumb resting lightly on the trigger. The Soviet aircraft fills the glass. Broad wings, blunt nose, canopy framed like a greenhouse. Inside that cockpit, Senior Lieutenant Alexei Morozov, 27, from a farming village outside Kursk, feels the vibration change before he hears anything. The Michelin AM-38 engine roars at full power, shaking the armored fuselage like a living thing. The smell of hot oil and cordite never fully leaves this cockpit. Sweat runs down his spine despite the open vents. Morozov does not look back. He knows the Germans are coming. They always do. He thinks briefly, not of ideology, not of Stalin, but of his younger sister, still in that village, still writing letters that arrive months late. He pushes the nose down another meter, hugging the ground so close the prop wash kicks up dirt and grass. The Messerschmitt fires. 20mm cannon shells streak forward, bright flashes in the sun. Reuter watches them strike, expects to see aluminum tear, fuel ignite, wings fold. Instead, sparks scatter like hammer blows on steel. The rounds slam into the Il-2's fuselage, and stop. They burst outward, deflected, skipping off the armored shell that wraps Morozov like a bathtub of hardened steel. The aircraft shudders, but it does not break. It does not burn. It does not fall. Reuter blinks, fires again. Longer burst. The result is the same. "What the?" His voice cuts off mid-sentence. Inside the Sturmovik, Morozov feels the impacts as dull, concussive thumps. Not penetration, not fire, just violence absorbed. The armor plates, up to 12 millimeters thick around the cockpit and engine, do exactly what the designers promised they would do. they drink the punishment. Behind Morozov, in the cramped rear cockpit added only recently to newer Il-2s, Sergeant Nikolai Petrov, 19 years old, former tractor mechanic, grips the twin-mounted 12.7mm UBT machine gun. His hands are shaking. His mouth is dry. He twists his torso, craning against the harness, and sees the Messerschmitt overshoot slightly, sliding into his field of fire. Petrov squeezes the trigger. The gun hammers his shoulder. Tracers climb upward, stitching the sky. 1, 2, 3 seconds of fire. The German fighter jerks violently. Smoke pours from the engine cowling. Reuter swears, yanks the stick, and barely avoids slamming into the ground. His aircraft staggers away, trailing oil, confidence shattered in less than 5 seconds. On the radio, another German voice cuts in, suddenly sharp, suddenly serious. "Watch the rear! It's firing back!" Too late. A second Bf-109 dives, misjudges the angle, lingers just a fraction too long behind another Il-2. Petrov's gun chatters again. The Messerschmitt's canopy explodes. The aircraft rolls inverted and disappears into the steppe, carving a black scar into the earth. The laughter is gone now. Up and down the line, German pilots begin to realize the truth. This is not prey. The Il-2 formation does not scatter. It does not panic. It presses on. Ahead, German tanks and flak positions are growing larger by the second. Morozov steadies his breathing, adjusts his grip, checks the rocket arming switches one final time. The sky behind him is no longer safe. The ground ahead is about to become hell. The ground rises fast. 600 meters becomes 400. Then 300. Morozov lowers the nose just enough to line up the target zone. A German armored column halted near a dirt crossroads, engines idling, crews half relaxed under the false comfort of Luftwaffe air superiority. Panzer IIIs and IVs sit nose to tail. Fuel trucks are pulled off to the side. An 88mm flak gun crew is repositioning, unaware that the clock has already run out. The Il-2s come in low, brutally low. No elegant dive, no fighter theatrics. This is not a duel. This is execution by momentum. The first Sturmovik fires rockets. RS-82s streak forward, leaving smoky claws in the air. They slam into the column with flat, concussive violence. One rocket detonates beneath a half-track, flipping it like a toy. Another punches into the side armor of a Panzer, the explosion ripping open the engine compartment and setting the vehicle ablaze. Morozov presses the firing button. His 23mm WWII cannons thunder, the recoil shuddering through the armored fuselage. The guns chew into the earth, then climb deliberately into steel. Shells punch through thin top armor. Hatches fly open. Flames bloom. Below, German soldiers scatter, some firing rifles upward in pure reflex, others frozen in place, staring as the aircraft refuses to die. Flak opens up. Black puffs of 20mm bursts blossom around the Sturmoviks. One explodes directly in front of Morozov's canopy. Shrapnel screams across the armor glass, spiderwebbing the outer layer, but failing to penetrate. The sound is monstrous, like a giant striking an anvil inches from his face. Petrov shouts something unintelligible over the intercom. Morozov cannot hear it. His world has narrowed to throttle, gun sight, vibration. Another flak burst hits the left wing root. The aircraft lurches, but control remains. Hydraulic pressure holds. The Il-2 was built for this, designed to fly while wounded, designed to keep killing even while bleeding. Above them, the Luftwaffe regroups. Reuter's damaged Bf-109 claws its way back into altitude, oil pressure dropping, engine coughing. He watches the attack unfold below with disbelief, edging into something colder. Fear. "These things won't burn," he radios. "Aim for the wings, or the tail. Do not stay behind them." Two more Messerschmitts dive together, coming in from high 6 o'clock, firing short, disciplined bursts. Cannon rounds hammer into Morozov's right wing. Fabric tears. Metal twists. One shell punches through the unarmored outer section. Still, the aircraft flies. Petrov swings his gun again, firing upward at an impossible angle. He sees flashes. Hits. One German fighter pulls up too late, smoke trailing from its wingtip. The second breaks away, unwilling to press the attack. For the first time, the Sturmovik is dictating the fight. On the ground, chaos compounds. Ammunition trucks detonate. A fuel tanker erupts into a fireball that knocks men flat. The German flak gun finally gets into action, the barrel tracking desperately. But the Sturmoviks are already past, skimming so low that the gun cannot depress far enough to follow. Morozov pulls up slightly, clearing a line of trees by meters. His fuel gauge is dropping faster than planned. Oil temperature is climbing. The aircraft smells wrong now. Burnt metal, scorched insulation. Behind him, Petrov's voice is hoarse. "Fighters! 2! Left side!" Another attack comes in, more cautious this time. The Messerschmitts fire from offset angles, slashing through the formation instead of lingering. One Il-2 takes a direct hit to the rear fuselage. The aircraft staggers, loses altitude, clips the ground in a shower of dirt and flame. Morozov does not look. There is no room for mourning at this altitude. He lines up one final pass, drops his remaining bombs. The explosions tear open the crossroads like a wound that will not close. German resistance collapses into scattered, burning fragments. Only then does the formation break. The Il-2s pull away in ones and twos, hugging terrain, limping westward. German fighters pursue briefly, then peel off, unwilling to press damaged machines against an aircraft that refuses to behave like a victim. Reuter turns for home, his engine barely holding together. His hands are shaking now. His logbook will record no victory today, only a sick realization. This was not an easy target. This was something else entirely. Back at the Soviet forward airstrip, little more than packed dirt and fuel drums, mechanics run as the surviving Sturmoviks arrive. Morozov's aircraft lands hard, suspension groaning. When the engine finally cuts, the sudden silence feels unreal. The ground crew gathers around his aircraft, pointing. Armor plates are cratered. Cannon shells are embedded and flattened. The machine is scarred, but intact. Morozov climbs out slowly, legs unsteady. Petrov drops to the ground and sits, staring at his hands. Somewhere to the west, German commanders begin rewriting their assumptions. The Il-2 is no longer a joke. It is a problem. August 1943. Kursk salient. Dawn. The sky over Kursk is low and colorless, a ceiling of dirty gray clouds pressing down on a battlefield already soaked in blood and fuel. Weeks of fighting have ground the land into dust and wreckage. Tank hulks rot where they burned. The air smells permanently of cordite and scorched oil. By now, everyone knows the sound. The deep, grinding roar of the Il-2 Sturmovik does not scream like a fighter or howl like a dive bomber. It advances, slow, relentless, mechanical, like an armored animal dragging itself across the sky. German infantrymen press their helmets down and pray when they hear it. Inside a revetment outside Prokhorovka, Gefreiter Otto Weiss, 21, Bavarian farm boy turned panzer grenadier, grips his rifle and stares upward. He has seen fighters before. Fighters kill quickly. Bombers pass high above. The Sturmovik is different. It comes low enough to see the pilot's canopy, low enough to hear the cannon tearing the air apart, low enough that it feels personal. Schwarzer Tod, someone whispers. Black Death. The Soviets have learned, and they have adapted. Il-2s now fly in circling attack patterns, overlapping fields of fire, one aircraft always covering another's tail. Rear gunners, once an afterthought, are now veterans, trained to wait, to aim, to kill. Fighters still attack, but they do so carefully, nervously, from angles that rarely yield clean shots. Morozov is older now, thinner. His logbook is thick with red pencil marks. He has survived months that should have killed him twice over. The cockpit around him is patched, repainted, welded back together like a veteran soldier's scars. Today's mission is simple: break a German armored thrust before it reaches the rail line. Simple never means easy. The formation descends through scattered flak bursts. Morozov feels the familiar percussion of fragments slapping armor. He barely reacts. His hands move automatically. Throttle. Trim. Guns armed. German fighters appear. WWIIs this time. Faster. Heavier. Deadlier. They slash in, firing high-velocity 20 mm rounds. One Sturmovik's wing shears away. Another catches fire and keeps flying long enough to release its bombs before crashing into a tree line in a rolling inferno. Morozov presses on. He fires rockets into a line of tanks dug in hull down. One panzer erupts. Another slews sideways, tracks blown apart. His cannons rake infantry positions, each burst walking methodically across trenches. Petrov, older now too, no longer shaking, fires only when the angle is right. A Focke-Wulf dives behind them, confident, aggressive. Petrov waits, then fires. The German fighter disintegrates mid-air, wing tearing free as the engine explodes. The debris rains down on the battlefield below. For a moment, even the flak pauses. Later, hours later, after debriefings and casualty lists and silent cups of weak tea, German reports circulate. Words appear again and again. Unkillable. Heavily armored. Rear gunners extremely dangerous. Recommendations follow. Avoid prolonged attacks. Attack in groups. Aim only for unarmored sections. Disengage if hit. The Mockery is gone. In its place is doctrine. By war's end, more than 36,000 Il-2s will be built. More than any other military aircraft in history. They will fly until engines fail, until airframes crack, until pilots run out of luck. Morozov survives the war. Barely. Years later, he will stand in a museum and touch the cold steel of an Il-2's armor plate, fingers tracing the shallow dents where German cannon fire once struck and failed. He will say nothing. He won't need to, because the legend is already written, across the steppe, across burning armor, across the memories of those who once laughed and learned too late. The Sturmovik was never an easy target. It was the storm that came in low and stayed.